Turn the time over to Eric.
Thank you, James. Okay. I can already see a typo in my slides. That's supposed to say PE, comma, teacher, not PE teacher. Really, I put that there on purpose because I can't be the only professional engineer that anytime they see their name it says PE after just wants to type teacher. I can't be the only one. I'm the only one? All right. Okay, we're talking about water use groups. All right. If you go onto our website now, I'm going to clarify something. We do have water use groups on our website now, but they're labeled as supplemental use groups. But that's getting fixed in the new rendition of our website that will be out. Did you already tell them the date that's coming out? Jim, did he say that? James? What date's that coming out? Undisclosed. In the future. Tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Sometime after tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to talk about the what, why, and how of water use groups. Okay, so we're going to talk about food to begin with. I like to talk about my topic, but not necessarily talk about my topic. So who here eats food? This is kind of like Will's question, who's a water user, but a little less loaded. Okay, that guy eats food. Sorry for calling you that guy. Hopefully you're okay with that. No, only one person eats food. All right. We're going to roll on. What are some ways we can group food together? Ideas. This is where the ideas come rolling in. Color. Okay, we can group food by color. Any other type of food? Health quality. Area of normal consumption. Area of normal consumption. That kind of went over my head. Are you referring to like? Mexican. Oh, okay. Okay, got it. He was referring to like types like Mexican, Chinese food, okay, American, et cetera, et cetera. What did you say, sir? Plants. Plants, meats, okay.
Billion-dollar industry.
Billion-dollar industry, okay. All right. Yeah, so food can be grouped in all sorts of different ways, okay. You were all wrong, though, because the answer I really wanted you to say was in meals. No, I'm just kidding. The answers you provided are great. So we do the same thing with water rights. We try and look at a water right and its characteristics, and we group them based on common place, period, and type of use. Okay, so that doesn't mean that every stock watering right is in the same water use group, because it has to be in the same place and type. And hopefully, the period is a little fuzzy, but as long as it's in the same place and the same type, we may be able to group those together into a water use group, 2 water rights. Okay, so here's my first thought-provoking question. Let's call it the third thought-provoking question. If 2 water rights have the same point of diversion, are they in the same water use group? Okay, we got some no head shakes over here. Anyone want to say yes?
Some of the groups, yes.
Okay, there's the perfect answer. Yes and no, probably not. I don't know. It depends on the characteristics, right? It depends on the place, period, and type of use in order for them to be in a water use group. So let's see. Oh, I forgot to tell you that James told me that on the test, this section about water use groups usually scores the worst. So I'm teaching to the test. So anytime you see me pick up my notes, that's a hot tip that you should be writing down a note, because that's probably going to be on the test. So there's your first note pickup. Okay. So water use groups can have more than one point of diversion from different water rights. They can all be included in the same group. There may be just one point of diversion associated with that water use group, and a water use group can have underground and or surface points of diversion for their water use group. Okay, now on to the next thought-provoking question. Is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Garbage.
Who said garbage? Come on. Oh, all right. So we got fruits, we got vegetables. Okay, by scientific definition, a tomato is a fruit. The Supreme Court in 1893 ruled the tomato is a vegetable. Okay, so, and that has to do with tariffs and different things. I thought that was both on point and interesting. The Supreme Court case that decided that is Nix v. Hedden, Hedden. You're more than welcome to read about that now if you'd like, on your own time.
You're looking at your notes right
That's not on the test. I am looking at my notes. I just wanted to make sure that was right. That's not on the test. I didn't do the pickup, okay? This
So
group is very on top of it.
The folks in Moab don't actually see you, they only
Oh.
see the presentation, so we
want
probably
me to-
need to have some kind of other red flag for
Okay. I'll do this.
them. There you go.
I'll do a throat clear for the folks in Moab. Okay. Here we go. What is a water use group? So like I said, it's a grouping of water rights that have common use at the same place of use. And every water right belongs in a water use group, at least one. And a water use group can belong in more than one a water right can belong in more than one water use group. That was with the throat clear. Okay. What about ownership? Does ownership affect belonging in a water use group? Can we have more than one owner in a water use group? We can have different owners in a water use group, right? And they don't all have to be the same owner to be in the same water use group. It only matters where it is used and what it is used for to be in the same water use group. And each water use group represents a unique beneficial use of the water and ties together the water rights to serve that use, okay? And as we all know, the beneficial use is the basis, measure, and limit of a water right. Has someone else said that phrase already today? Yes, okay. I wasn't even at all the presentations, and I can say without a doubt, yes, someone has already said that phrase. Okay. Okay, I'm reiterating a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so the water use group defines the place or places of use, the period or periods of use, the beneficial use or uses of one or more water rights. Okay, and a single water right, again, must belong to at least one water use group. I just really want you guys to get a good score on the test, okay? So this is a definition of the place of use. We don't really need to go over that, I don't think. I think that's pretty clear. We describe it based off of sections and quarter sections of land. And the period of use, so here's some examples. So we have a domestic use, typically year-round use. The middle picture is irrigation, which is from April to October. And then we have that cute little cow there, typically a year-round use. If we could train cattle to not drink at some point, that would save some water, I guess, but they typically drink year-round. Okay, the beneficial use, there it is again, is the basis, measure, and limit of a water right. We're going to skip that last question. Just think in your mind what are some types of beneficial use, and I'm sure you can come up with some. Okay, here's some other terms that you'll need to understand. Sole supply. Okay. Okay, here we go. Sole supply of a water right is the amount of beneficial use allowed under a particular water right when used alone and separate from all other supplemental use groups or water use groups. Okay, it is also the sum of a water right's beneficial use amount in each water use group for which the water right is included, and it is a limitation of the right which may be stated separate from the group beneficial use amounts. So basically, if you have a water right, the sole supply of that water right is its limiting factor. So if a water right is in a use group of 10 acres and the sole supply of that water right is 5 acres, then that water right has no more value than 5 acres as it pertains to that water use group. As it pertains to itself.
That statement is not on your slides anywhere?
It is not. Sort of it is, but not as clear as what I just said right there. Did I say it kind of clear? It was super clear in my mind, but I stare at these things all day. Does anyone do you have a question about sole supply?
That was a long statement, yes. The answer is yes. Is that what you're saying?
The answer is all of the above. Yeah, so the sole supply is the amount of beneficial use allowed under a particular water right. It's the sum of all of the beneficial use amounts in each of the water use groups that water right belongs to. So if we have a water right and it's in 3 water use groups and its sole supply for the first one is 1 acre, its sole supply for the second water use group is another acre, and the sole supply for the third water use group is another acre, then then the beneficial use contribution amount in each of those water use groups is 1, 1, and 1. The sole supply is 3. Sorry, the wording is weird. Okay, within a water use group, each water right will have a beneficial use amount that it contributes to that water use group. That is not necessarily the sole supply of the water right. You have to look at each water use group and the amount that it contributes within each water use group and add those up, and then you'll get the sole supply of said water right. Head nod from Teresa. I think I'm okay with that one. Okay.
Provide an example.
No, yes. Actually, let's see. Let's go.
He was
go off
asked to
script.
provide an example.
Yeah, I'm going to provide an example here. Let's see. Okay. Is everyone else using Chrome and not Explorer? Is that why it's not coming up?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I want to close tabs. Look at that. Okay, so let's pick a water right number. Let's see here. 55 1451. Oh. I swear I work here and I know what I'm doing. Okay, here. So let's scroll down. Oh, dang, it only has one water use group. Is this another? Oh, American Fork City. Okay, we're going to try. Oh, come on, Eric.
66404, I'll give you one, I think.
66440?
404.
I don't know, that's out of my area of operation. 4 2 zeros or just one?
Just 1 0. It has livestock and houses.
Okay, so we scroll down here. Oh, it does say water use group on here. I swear I looked at that yesterday and it said supplemental use group. Or maybe that's just on my slide, which is an old image. So it does say water use group on there. Okay, so here we see we have 2 water use groups. The first water use group, 431922, so it only has 1 water right in there. So the beneficial use amount contributed by this water right is 1 EDU, 1 equivalent domestic unit. Then we go down to the next one, and that beneficial use group amount is irrigation and stock watering, and it contributes to those groups 0.1667 acre and 2 equivalent livestock units. So the sole supply of that water right is the 1 EDU, the 0.1667 acre, and the 2 ELUs. And that's the sole supply of that water right.
Does it sum that up somewhere on this page?
Yes, it does, at the bottom. I don't know, I've been in the beta test. Where does it sum it up on here, James? Right there at the bottom, right? Okay, yeah, so you can see kind of right in the middle, right here it says quantity in acre feet. It gives you the acre foot amount that it was originally, and then 0.25 for acres, but there's been a segregation, so now it comes down here, and you see there's the sole supply amount, stock, and the domestic unit. Is that clear as I can make it? Okay. I don't want anyone to get that question wrong on the test about sole supply.
All of them. Got it.
Yeah, I don't know how much I can divulge, but
You said teacher right there at the front. That means you can just step in here tomorrow and we're taking the test and away we go.
yeah, sure, I can help with anything you'd like. I will give you, here's a hot tip though, on this, the test questions haven't changed, right, James? One of the letters is the answer 12 times. Another of the letters is the answer 4 times, and another letter is 4 times. So be careful and don't choose the wrong letter. But don't let me be misleading, because B is not an answer. So if you answer B in this section of the test, I'm going to lose it. Okay. So beneficial use amount, oh, here we go. Beneficial use amount is the amount of beneficial use a water right contributes to a water use group, which we just went over, okay? Okay, next slide. Here we go. Why do we even...
I hate to be the guy on the back row, but
Do you want me to stop giving out answers?
do you realize that the answers are randomized?
I did not know that. I looked at James and said, have they changed? And he said no, so I said,
No, they
okay.
haven't changed, but they will be B on one guy's question and B on A on another guy's question.
Was this like a licensure exam? Come on. Sorry, I tried to help you. Just when in doubt, just circle all of the above. I think you'll be okay. You'll get over 50%. Because are they randomized within the? I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done with that. Okay. We use water use groups to help us define to define if a water right is supplemental with other water rights, to define the sole supply of a water right, and to define the group contribution of a water right. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that with the throat clear. We use water use groups to define that if a water right is supplemental with other water rights, to define the sole supply of a water right, and to define the group contribution of a water right. Okay. How will you guys use water use groups in your work? You will go to our website and you will use water use groups as a key indicator for acquiring rights, to reconcile issues with rights, to evaluate water rights, to see what the sole supply of said water right is and what you can do as far as the change application goes. And we're going to talk about later, if you look at a water use group and you disagree with what's on our website, because they're not always correct, or if you see the word unevaluated within a water use group, what you can do there. We're going to discuss that later. Okay, so here we have this fun drawing. Okay, so we're getting into now where we're going to start thinking about water use groups and how they're constructed. Okay, so we see this water right number 1 has a surface diversion that takes the water into a ditch and then puts it out onto this field. That field is irrigated solely by water right number 1. So that's one water use group. We're going to call that group number 1. Down at the, now I wish there were a north-south arrow on here, but anyway, so if you look at the part that says group 2, you can see that there's no berm there, so the water from that ditch is able to get onto that land where group 2 is. And there's also a spring there, which is water right number 2. And so that becomes group 2. So those two water rights work supplementally to irrigate that land. Group 3 is irrigated by the spring, but it's not irrigated by water right number 1. So water right 2 and water right 3, which is a well by the house, is water right number 3, irrigate that section of this parcel of land. And then group 4 uses just the well for irrigation and the home there. So that's a 4th group. So we have 3 points of diversion, 2 different types of use, and 4 use groups. So we have irrigation and then that domestic, and that domestic can be in the same water use group as the irrigation, as we saw with the ELUs and the irrigation on that example that I brought up. So they can be in the same use group, but not. They can't because it has different uses. It's not in the same with the other groups. Okay. All right. So here's an exercise. So here we have 3 water rights 1, 2, and 3, and those are their amounts that I have given them for this exercise. Who here thinks there should be 5 water use groups? Any takers on 5? 5 water use groups? What about, nobody raised their hand. I'm doing this for the Moab and the St. George people. Nobody raised their hand on that one. Did anyone raise your hand in St. George or Moab? Just kidding. What about 4? What about 4 water use groups? Okay, no one again. What about 3? Does anybody think there's 3 water use groups? Okay, we got some timid people raising their hand. Okay, I like the participation.
You cannot tell from the data there.
Oh, don't jump the gun. You're a gun jumper. You're disqualified.
Are they springs or wells or surface rights or you don't have like?
Is he a plant? Who put this guy in the audience? Oh, sorry. Yes, he said we cannot tell from the data that's presented on this slide how many water use groups there should be. And that is the correct answer. You should be asking for more details, more data. Okay? So that was a loaded question. There could be 1, and there could be 2, there could be 3. But these are, I just wanted you to get to thinking when you see water rights grouped together, not on our database, kind of out in the open, then start asking these questions. I need more data to determine how many water use groups there should be. So these are some of the documents that you can use to evaluate water use groups and to understand how many water use groups should be assigned to a water right, and if a water right is supplemental to another water right, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that slide is there for your benefit on the test. Okay, so here we go. So here we have more information. Okay, so we should be able to determine now how many water use groups should be assigned to these 3 water rights. All right, so this is kind of a document history. We see that water right 57.1 was an application to appropriate for 3 EDUs and 5 ELUs. It was certificated 4 years later for the same amounts, and then an adjudication came through 18 years after that, and they signed a water users claim saying 2 acres, 3 EDUs, and 15 ELUs, okay? So then we see, which in my opinion, that would be an enlargement of the right. But then we have these other water rights where we have this diligence claim that was for 1 acre and 5 ELUs. Again, the adjudication comes through, and it gets assigned 2 acres, 3 EDUs, and 15 ELUs. And then water right 57.3 is assigned water users claim for 2 acres, 3 EDUs, and 15 ELUs. So obviously we saw more use than what those 2 water rights covered, and they said, oh, we have this well too that we use, so then we assigned that a water right number through the adjudication back then. Okay, so how many water use groups should there be here? Let's start with the number 3. Anyone think there's 3 water use groups? Okay, nobody said 3. What about 2? Are there 2 water use groups? What about 1? Is there just 1 water use group? Everyone's leaning on 0 water use groups? There's one water use group, okay? So we have, again, it's another question that maybe we need more information, but because of the signed water users claim that puts them all in this same group, it's just 1 water use group for 2 acres, 3 EDUs, and 15 ELUs. And then with this information, we can also go back and define the beneficial use amounts that each water right contributes to the water use group. So we can see the water right 57.1 provides 3 of the 3 EDUs and 5 of the ELUs. 57.2 provides 1 of the acre of irrigation and 5 more ELUs. So then 57.3 is left with, it provides 1 acre and 5 ELUs as well. And so then that would be, pending no other information, that would be the beneficial use contribution amount and the sole supply of those water rights, because they're all in 1 water use group.
Sorry.
Yeah, here's a question. Hang on one second.
Wouldn't the acres and EDUs and ELUs separate it so there's 3 different groups at least?
That's a good possibility. If the place of use is the same, then we can put them all in the same water use group, because we group them together based off of place of use and type of use. But place of use can tie it all together into 1 water use group.
It's 2-3 different types, though, isn't
It is 2-3 different types. But like the example we brought up, you saw that it was in 1 water use group that had acreage and stock watering. And that's because they were being used in the same place of use. That's where it gets a little confusing. I see the eyebrow raise and I hear it.
So what would be the answer?
The answer is he asked what the answer would be. The answer is there's one water use group for 2 acres, 3 EDUs, and 15 ELUs in this example.
Because they're all used in the same place?
Because, yes, she asked if they're all used in the same place, and that is the reason why, because they're all used in the same place. Okay, any more questions on that? That's a good topic. Okay. Okay, here we go. If a water right owner has several water rights for the irrigation of 120 acres, and the water rights all describe the same place of use, how should the water use group be structured? One group. Someone over here said one group, and that's exactly right. Okay, it should all water rights used for his irrigation should be in the same group. Okay. All right, let's take a little food diversion. Okay. So everyone uses the phrase, that's the best invention since sliced bread. Sliced bread was invented in 1912. And when sliced bread was invented, people said sliced bread is the greatest forward step in the baking industry since bread was wrapped. But sliced bread wasn't mass produced until 1928 due to a fire where the sliced bread machine was created. There's a whole controversy. It was quite fascinating, actually. So, anyway, enjoy that one. Okay, here we go. So basically the same question as last time, but we mixed it up a little bit, okay? So now we have the same farmer that has 120 acres, and there's also an irrigation company listed on his water use group. And they appear that the water right owner may also be able to use water from that irrigation company. Now, how should the group be structured? Do we have more groups now? This gentleman is shaking his head no. We still have one water use group, but now we have, or we should have, a little phrase on it that says water also may be provided by such and such irrigation company.
So they can belong.
Hang on one second. Hang on one second.
These water rights can also belong in other groups. But you're saying regarding this scenario, one group defines everything. If they have wells, they have springs, and they have all this, they would be grouped also in other groups, but they belong to this group because of the place and use.
Correct. So yeah, the water right that belongs to the well can be in this 120 acres, but it could also be in another water use group somewhere else, depending on its place of use. And then the irrigation company comes in and the service area kind of is over the top of that and says, hey, we can provide water to this land, and we do provide water to this land. Therefore, our water right is now supplemental to their water right, so it's all in the same water use group. Okay? Yes, sir.
Well, can you define group? I mean, what makes it a group?
A group is defined based off of the common place of use and type of use. But then again, we can also have different types of use all in the same water use group. Man, I'm sorry. That's all. I mean, if you do this for 10 years, it makes perfect sense. Oh, but yeah, it's very confusing, and it takes time to get in and start looking at the documents and to get an understanding of how these water use groups can be constructed. And don't dig too deeply, someone just said, and I agree with that. But yeah, so basically, if you're looking at a parcel of land and you see 2 water rights on there, probably those 2 water rights are going to be in the same water use group. They're going to be supplemental, probably, but not necessarily. That's where the documents that we read about, the proposed determinations, the decrees, all the applications that you can find. Any document that you can find is so crucial in your evaluation of a water right to gain an understanding of how that water right operates on its own and within whatever water use group it's in. But we're always here for you too. So if you come upon a water right and you get scared, we're here for you, and we can help you through it. And we might not be able to do it right away. I mean, there's times people come in, I look at that water use group and I say, I'm going to need at least a day to start pulling together files and doing some research. But we're more than willing to help you with any questions you have as far as water use groups go. Other questions, we don't help at all. No, I'm just kidding. We will help with any water right related question. question over here. Yes, sir.
For places, so, because the last couple of things, they've all been part of the same group because they've been part of the same place.
Uh-huh.
How far, is place relative? Is it a single parcel? Is it parcels adjacent to each other? If you have a parcel, then you have a mile at another parcel, can they still be in the same group?
Yes. I mean, it all depends on how the water right is defined. And I see Boyd just rolling over there, just chuckling to himself, because he's given this presentation before. So within let's say a water right is defined and it's used in the northeast of this section, okay, of said section. And then it's also used in the southeast of this section, okay? So we have basically the two opposite corners. And then another water right comes in and it says that it's also used in the northeast of the northeast, but not in the southeast of the southeast, okay? So the first water right now has two water use groups because it shares the same place of use with water right 2, but it has this place of use down here by itself, and it's in its own water use group. I don't know if that made it clear or more confusing. You're just giving me a head nod. Does that make sense? Do I need to be more demonstrative with my hands to make more sense?
Give another question.
Yes.
I just want to ask, for a municipality that gathers water rights or shares, how much of this do we really need to worry about? We're tracking it, but how much does it really affect the water right in the end once it's converted into domestic or municipal use? Do we need to worry about tracking or just kind of know it was in a group at one point, now it's used somewhere else? Because once it's changed, the group still is attached to it, the way I understand it.
Yes, so you need to worry about it on the front end. So when do you work for a municipality? Is that, okay. So you have to worry about it when you're acquiring the water rights. So you're going to look at the water use groups of whatever water right you want to acquire, and you're going to have to figure out what the sole supply of that water right is before you acquire it, before we will allow you to move it out into a change application and put it into the municipal system. But that water right still stays in that original water use group until you perfect it and change it into municipal use after filing proof of beneficial use.
We've done that, but they're still attached to those groups.
Oh, you have? What city do you work for?
For Heber. So once those
Heber.
rights
Dang
are
it,
still
that's my
in the
area.
well, there's still a supplemental group attached to it that's attached to some other right that they don't even own. They're
And
still in the same groups.
you've
They
perfected and
are,
received
yes.
certificates.
So that's a question.
Well-
It's like, should they be separated at that point?
Yeah. I will
Okay.
talk to you after, and you'll give me specific water rights, and I will look at those.
Question
then-
from St. Moab.
Yes.
So anytime you have more than one water right being used with another in whole or part, then it's a unique use group, question mark.
Yes. But I probably would need more details to give a very solid answer on that. But yes, if two water rights are being used together for unique use in the same place of use, then yes, that is one water use group. Okay. Nothing from this side of the room yet? Okay, here we go. Oh, sorry, that was not an actual throat clear. That was I have something in my throat and I'm clearing it. Or maybe it wasn't. So a group contains a water right owned by an individual and the water rights for an irrigation company. What does that even mean? Okay, so I think we've covered it. It means that the service area of that irrigation company incorporates the parcel of land where that water right is being used and can contribute water to that same parcel of land. So therefore, it may be supplemental. And so our database kind of looked at that and said, these water rights might be supplemental. Let's put them all in the same water use group. But if you go to our database on our website and you see a water right number and you click on it and it's for an irrigation company, that is an error and that shouldn't be anymore. You should contact us and we'll get rid of that water right number from that water use group and we'll put that statement on the bottom that says water may be contributed from an irrigation company to this water use group. Okay. That slide is kind of loaded, so I think this is where I saw supplemental use group. I did see supplemental use group on here. So this is an old picture. But see that statement where that red arrow is? When a water right is supplemental to a water use group, you should see a statement like that on the water use group. All right, we can skim over that one. Okay. Water use groups may not be 100% correct. If that's might be the most shocking thing you've heard all day. Sometimes there's duplicate groups, sometimes there's incomplete groups. The database kind of gets messed up sometimes. So what we ask of you, because we don't really have time to go through each water use group, and this is kind of in line with what she was asking prior to this. So if you identify an error, then what you'll need to do, oh, there's a cute little picture of some dogs. What you'll need to do is you can submit a written request for corrections to be made to our office. And it can be an email, it can be a letter that you send in. We accept all of those. And then we will review what you've submitted to us, and if we feel that corrections should be made to that water use group, we will make those corrections, and then we will notify you that corrections have been made to that water use group or groups. Okay. Just want to make sure that I'm not missing a question there. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So, yep, that was a throat clear on that one about sending a written request. Okay. Also, if you have a water use group and you look at it and you say, hey, that water use group is correct, it should have all these water rights in there, but then you look at the beneficial use amount that your water right contributes and it says unevaluated. And you look at all the other ones, they also say unevaluated. So what you'll need to do at that point is you have to file what we call a declaration of beneficial use form. And that form, I have a picture of what that looks like here. It's kind of small for me. I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of small for me. But that's what the form looks like. And then you see down there, and the blue numbers are water right numbers, and then the red numbers are what you will fill in. And if there are evaluated values in our database, they will automatically fill in when you generate that form from our website, which is found under Applications and Form. And from the main page, you click on Applications and Form, and then you can generate that form. Okay, so you can do a declaration and say, based off of this evidence, here's what I believe the group contributions of each water right is. Sometimes the evidence isn't clear, so you can just submit the declaration of beneficial use form and put values in there, and then we will review that and say, yeah, those values match what we have on file, or they don't exceed or enlarge the water rights, so we can proceed with that. And if you are filing a declaration but you can't quite figure it all out and there's an unwilling participant, then you can go to the next thing, which is an application for apportionment. Beneficial use, which is a little more time consuming. There's a lot more mailings, but it's a way that you can define the beneficial use amounts when, let's say, a water right owner is deceased and can't sign, because every water right owner has to sign the declaration of beneficial use form in order for it to be valid. And initial. Don't forget to initial the page at the bottom. So I don't know if anyone's participated in the application for apportionment, but it's a fun process that just takes a little more time. Why do we even need to define the beneficial use amount contribution? Well, if you want to take a water right and do a segregation or file a change application, we need to know how much that water right is worth. And if we don't know, then we can't do either segregation or a change application. So we need the definition to occur, and then after it's been defined, then we can process whatever paperwork that you submit to us. Okay? And that is the end of my presentation. Are there any more questions? Yes, sir. I was hoping you were so confused there were no questions.
So you said part of the reason of the groups were to create an accounting of the different types of uses. Is that right? So
Yep.
Let's say you have one well at one point of diversion, but it's irrigating and serving a house and watering livestock. Wouldn't that be 3 separate groups? Or is it just one since it's the same place?
Are they on the same? They're on the same place of use in your mind. So, if there's no other information that we have there, we would say that's all one water use group.
Okay.
Eric, to help them understand this,
Yes, Boyd.
maybe you ought to talk about how we ended up with water use groups.
I think that might confuse them more. No, I don't. Would you like, how about you address that? You were,
So-
I mean,
so
you
let
worked
me-
on it, so
let
why
me
don't you
tell
address it?
How we got this place. So people moved here, they saw a creek, they appropriated that water and started using it on their farm. They wanted to irrigate more land than that stream would provide, but they tried to make it go as far as they could. So they maybe used water that really would only serve 10 acres on about 20 acres. They started looking around and realized there's a spring up here that would also, they could make a ditch and bring it down to that land. So then they developed that source and started using it on the same acreage because they didn't have a full supply. And then they realized they could drill a well because it didn't quite provide all the water they needed. And so they drilled a well, and then they had 3 sources that were all serving this same land. And so that's how this system came about, with those different layers of rights serving these uses. And so what we're trying to do as we move to new uses is figure out how much each of those rights are worth individually. If you try to take just one of the rights out of that group and take it somewhere else, how much did it contribute to this previous use as we take it to that new use?
Thank you. Are there any more questions after that? Or should we just bring Chase up?